Hello folks, this is John Kurt again with Imagine What here in Cypress, Texas on the northwest edge of Houston, Texas, and I'm doing another video here. The first video was about dispelling the myth in CAD that if you don't use a certain type of program, somehow your drawings, your models are not accurate. I hope I addressed that. The second one was an attempt to show how to set up your CAD software. In my case, I use TurboCAD 2019. I always hesitate to upgrade right away because whenever they upgrade their software, they tend to put more bugs into it than they actually fix. So I usually give them some time to go back and fix some of their mistakes. I don't know why that is with software, but it seems to hold true with just about any software program, including Microsoft Office or any of the common programs that we all use today. So anyway, so this is my third video, and actually I'm going to talk about tools, but I'd like to make the theme work planes, because when you're working in 2D, or you're working on paper, for example, you're sketching something on a cocktail napkin, which people laugh at, but believe me, it sometimes happens. That's how we start a lot of drawings. You're in 2D, you only have one work surface. That's your paper that you're drawing on. But when you're dealing with 3D, you're not dealing with elevations. And even though the 3D software does great representation of what things would look like from various positions, you can oftentimes think you put something right where you want it to be, and when you go to check it out, you find out it's not where it should be. In fact, it could be miles away. Okay, so hopefully we'll get to that, but I want to take a little bit more time on the menus, and I want to review them a little bit, just as a reminder for those who are actually trying to learn CAD software and maybe have their own program. You might even have bought TurboCAD. And one lady wrote to me today, kind of curious about TurboCAD, and and she says she never heard of it, and that's quite true. I think your typical programs out there that you hear about most frequently are AutoCAD, and that's because AutoCAD made a very well-chosen strategic marketing maneuver early on, and that was they were going to offer their software to the students for free to all colleges, and you got your free downloads and so on and so forth. And they were very successful in doing that. So when students learned the AutoCAD software in school, when they got out of school and they had to draw something, well, guess where they went? They went to AutoCAD. Now there's been a lot of various spin-offs from AutoCAD, and I don't even know if they're the same companies or not, but they seem to be. Autodesk, for example, Inventor, for example. Not sure about SolidWorks, but I worked for a company years ago up in Detroit called Puritan Automation, and we used to build automation products, and we had people coming in, and that was back in right around 2000. And we have people coming in saying, well, we want, our engineers all use CATIA. Are you going to be willing to use CATIA if we give you this particular job? And of course, the boss, not really thinking about it, said, "Of course, yes, yes." He didn't really realize CATIA was like a $20,000 software program to buy. Plus, you had to learn how to use it, and we didn't have anybody in the office that actually knew how to use CATIA. So nowadays, there are many different CAD programs out there, and believe me, the learning curve for each of them is extremely steep. So the industry is changing now to where they're starting to recognize just because I use a particular software, like in my case TurboCAD, does not mean that I expect everybody else to work in TurboCAD, or that anybody even wants my TurboCAD file, which chances are they don't. So the answer to the young lady's question about TurboCAD, it's been around for a while. It was an alternative to AutoCAD, which was at the time the dominant player in the CAD market, and due to their marketing strategy, good marketing strategy, and TurboCAD came along and competed with that. And actually, one of the things I find most interesting is all the AutoCAD programs just about I can open up without any issues whatsoever, and I can save in their format without any issues whatsoever. And I think that's because TurboCAD was actually built around those platforms. Now, one of the things about TurboCAD, whether you like it or don't like it, I'm not promoting the product per se, but one of the things I did like about TurboCAD at the time I started, which keep in mind was over 10 years ago, was that it was not a command-based software. AutoCAD was. AutoCAD was a keyboard software. You had to remember Control-Alt-W for work plane. You had no Shift-S for this or function that for something else. I mean, there was in fact, I had a book that must have been 1,500 pages of all the various commands in AutoCAD. Now, I don't know about you, but I wasn't interested in making a career out of working in AutoCAD. I was interested in drafting. So what I found appealing about TurboCAD, other than its price, was that basically all the tools are set up with icons. Now, you can also use shortcut keys if you want. They have an array of shortcut keys, and actually you can set up your own shortcut keys. If, for example, you're an AutoCAD user, you can set your keyboard up in TurboCAD. Well, actually, I'll show it to you here. You can set it up the way you want. Now, one of the things I might have forgot to do in my last video was show how to open up the tools palette. And if you go up, you see my cursor here, I'm going to move it around so you can see it. If you go up to any blank space here up in the top and you right click, what it's going to do is open up your tool groups and so forth. So see, I can come up here and select keyboard, and I can start assigning keyboard commands to any of these functions. So if you're a old AutoCAD guy that just can't seem to get over not using your keyboard, you can set it up. It's up to you. I mean, I've only set up a few things myself, but sometimes the keyboard commands work quite nicely. So it's there. And as I said, there are many functions. I probably will never learn this program. Even I've been using it now for 10 years, and I still don't know all of the features and functions of it. I probably never will. This is a true CAD program, but it started out, and I believe it started out around AutoCAD. I think they might have used a lot of the AutoCAD features. So anyway, so close this out. So again, what I wanted to do today is talk a little bit about, well, I'll go back and explain some of the tools. And we'll do a little bit of that. There's so many tools. I really can't get into too many of them, or I'm going to bore you, because you know, the best way to find out what you need is actually start working in it. And just so you know, if you want to start learning CAD very affordably, TurboCAD offers what they call a deluxe program, which is kind of their entry-level program. It's a 2 and 3D software package. It will not have near the capabilities of this level of TurboCAD, but it's a very good starter program, and it will do a lot of what I'm talking about right now. And it's a good way to get introduced to CAD work, if that's what you enjoy doing. And I'll tell you another little story. I never knew that I would enjoy working with CAD or any type of drafting program until very late in my life. I have been working with 2D CAD for many, many, many years, as a sales engineer and as a operations manager for a machine shop. And I had a very difficult time relating to 2D drawings, to be quite honest. I had a very difficult time. I never liked 2D drawings. And it was because you have to be able to imagine how something looks from the front, from the top, from the side, from the bottom, from the back, from the other side, and be able to see all the features that are in it. And it's not normal. It's not a normal thing. But in 3D, you get to come in here and you get to look at whatever it is that you're drawing here. You can look at it, you can examine it, you can twist it around, you can see all the different features. 3D made sense to me. And so when I started playing with 3D many years ago, I said, hey, maybe I could do something. And that was before 3D was popular. Probably 95% of all the drawings done back in the early 2000s were 2D drawings, 2D AutoCAD drawings. And obviously when 3D CAD came out, it was a big thing. It really was a big thing, especially up in Detroit where I was from. So, and there were many programs out there, and all of them were very, very expensive. So the appeal for me with TurboCAD was that it was not an expensive program. To get started, I started with their Deluxe. Actually, I think I started with even another version which was lower than Deluxe, and it was less than $100, maybe $75. But it gave me an opportunity to get into drafting and to start learning it a little bit at a time. And as I'd go along, I'd always get up to a point where I wanted to do something, but I couldn't do it because the program wouldn't let me do it. And then I'd have to go to the next level of the program. I'd have to upgrade, which is nothing wrong with. But if anybody wanted to play around with CAD and try to learn it, I would highly recommend buying the TurboCAD Deluxe version. It's only like $140 or something like that. And you'll get 2D and 3D CAD, and you'll get rendering capabilities. So it's a good little program to start with, and everything I'm doing here, you can do in your program. There's just a lot of things I can do you won't be able to do simply because it doesn't have those abilities in it for $140. For example, I'll give you one right now. Threaded holes. It doesn't do threaded holes. You can put a hole in there, but you won't get a threaded hole. And you won't get a history tree. So if I click on this, I brought this up last time, and I go to selector information. You see this up here? I got a history. So everything that I've done when drawing this, I have a history on, and I can go ahead and I can change parameters. So on this tapped hole, we're talking about tapped holes. All four of these tapped holes are the same. We got a depth of 0.6 inches, a diameter of 0.152 because it's 1032. Chamfer, a lead-in chamfer of 0.02, a thread depth of 0.5, and a thread pitch of 0.31 because it's 32 pitch. So this is a 1032. You know what, thinking about that, I think I'll go back here and identify that. We'll show you another tool that we can use. Here I've got I got the tool called out, or the hole called out right there, 0.185. Is that on the right one? It's not on the right one, so let's change that too. I'm looking over here at the screen, and it says diameter should be 1.152, and yet I'm calling out 0.185. Why? Because when I snapped it, I caught the outside diameter of the chamfer, not the actual inside diameter. So I'm going to change it. All right. Okay, what I used there, that was a hotkey. It was Control Shift, puts me into an edit mode. And once I'm in an edit mode, what I can do here, so I can do that, and let's just see, 185. Still not doing it what I want. Okay, hang on, we'll get it. Okay, we're gonna go back to edit. I am not sure what happened there. Okay, well, come on, let's do it again. Oh, there's another way to do it. Just blow it away. Let me go back here to Tools. That was diameter. So we'll go over here to diameter. Now, the closer in I get, the more accurate I get. And I'm going to hit C for center. Okay, I do believe I caught it correctly there, 152. Oh, we'll go back and check it. We want selector information. Got hole here, 152. Okay, so that's a good example of where when I was dimensioning it, I inadvertently caught the wrong diameter there. But this is what was programmed into the software for the tapped hole. And when it comes to the model, and a lot of places will tell you, don't go by the drawings per se, go by the model. The model will have this information in it for your CNC. So it's not like, I lost something. I had an incorrect drawing, and I had to change that drawing, but it's correct now. Okay, so over here you're going to see all your different properties. And since I did this hole, the tapped hole, as one unit, if I change anything here, it's going to change all of them. Okay, So if for example, we can probably see this. Let's go to side view here. Let's say I want to change the depth of that hole. Right now I got that at 6. Let's make it 7.5. Okay, you can see it just changed the depth of it when I changed it over here. And when I go thread depth, and now I'm going to go 0.6 instead of 0.5. And by editing it this way, it keeps the history intact. There's other ways to do it, but you got to be careful sometimes. Actually, I'm going to go back and change that back again because I don't like it. I mean, I don't like. There's nothing wrong with the hole. I just we don't need that much of a hole. So I'm going to highlight it, and I believe we're at 0.6 on depth. And on the thread depth, we need to go 0.5. Just informationally, typically with the tapped hole, you don't want to go any deeper than you need to. This is actually deeper than it needs to be, but especially when you get into smaller parts, taps have a tendency to break very easily, so machinists prefer it that you use the least amount of depth as possible, and you want to give yourself some clearance here for the tap. So you kind of want to build that in. Now let's see if we screwed up our drawing again. I'm going to go check it and see. By the way, that little drop down menu, I'm going to show you what happened there and why. But if I'm going to go in here and I go select my hole, it said 6. So I'm wondering if it's taking it from, I take it from the point, but maybe, let's try this. Let's try this. Six, 2, 5. So we'll go back. I want to pull up the hole. All right, 0.6. So okay, well that's interesting to learn that. I always went from the point of it, but I guess they're going from the shoulder. And the thread depth I've got over here is 0.5 and 0.480, so it's close enough. Okay. All right, I think I covered that pretty well. So, getting back to work planes. Oh, I wanted to show you when I looked at when I was selecting something here. I believe it was down here. Okay, you see I have multiple selections here. Okay, so do I want the actual 2D object or do I want the linear dimension? Well, I wanted the linear dimension in that case. Now, make sure that that's actually set up correctly. We go into options and I believe it's in preferences. nope, maybe desktop. What I'm doing is I'm looking for where that little tick is. If you get to where, and it's happened to me, which is the reason why I want to bring it up, it doesn't give you those options. Here it is. And on the selection, make sure you have this ticked off. Use choice of several entities and aperture while selection. So you do want to make sure that's on. Otherwise, when you click on something, you may not be clicking on the right thing. If there's multiple choices there, this makes your life a lot easier. And it has, from time to time, become unticked for one reason or another. Okay? And maybe that's because in the last video I was showing that if you right click on your mouse, you're going to get all these local menus. So a lot of what I got displayed here is right there. So if for whatever reason you can't find something, look here. All your most common stuff is right here. Okay, and going through them. Okay, this arrow is the same as this arrow here. That's your selector arrow. This arrow here is the edit tool. It's the same as this arrow here, which is the edit tool. And this is a line. This is a construction line. I'd be honest, I don't know what it's there for. I don't use it. This is a polyline. This is a polygon. It's a rectangle. And we've got all kinds of radiuses and circles and so forth. Here you can make blocks and groups. This is for doing arrows. This is for doing slots and making slots, and this is a brand new option for Platinum 19. It's a really good option because it was a pain in the butt to make slots, especially circular slots. But you need them for mechanical drawings. You need to be able to make circular slots. And then it's your usual stuff. Open file, save, print. This little arrow thing, whenever you see that, it means that it'll bring the center of extents of the entire drawing into view. So if you lost your drawing for some reason, hit that, because sometimes you're just looking at it and you can't see it because something moved. Spell check. There's some mouse functions. These here are your rendering tools. We've got them up here in the middle too. And these are your work plans, which are also right here. All right, so there's a lot of things you can do there. Also, one of the things you need to set up, I would recommend you set up, was you've got a 3D selector. When I hit that, what it does is it tells me what I got down here at the bottom. Okay, and you'll notice I've got position X, position Y, position Z. I never use them. I really don't care what the position is. That is, like I said, for a CNC. But what I do use a lot is scale. When do I use scale? Let's say I'm importing a 3D bolt. I went to McMaster-Carr and I brought in a 3D bolt, and my units are all English in inches, but the bolt is metric. I'm going to have to scale it so that it's right. So what do I multiply it by? Because you got, for 1 inch, you got 25.4 millimeters. So if they have it in millimeters, I'm going to have to go ahead and scale it up. So I'm going to divide it by 0.03937. And that will bring it back in scale. And talking about scale, you can scale just the X, just the Y, just the Z, or you can come over here and you can select this guy right here. No, it's not that guy right there. Hang on, let me close this out. Right here, this guy right here. It says keep aspect ratio. If I put something in here, for example, I want to scale this up, and I select this here, it's going to scale them all up. It's going to keep all the aspect ratios. Okay, so all my numbers down here just changed because I scaled it down. Now I went down to 0.9, so I'm going to go 1.1. Okay, I got a little bit lost there in scaling. And there was something I wanted to show here that I never got around to. So I'm going to do a couple things real quick before we get on to the actual topic, which is supposed to be planes, work planes, and surfaces and so forth. But since this hole is a 1032 hole, I probably should call it out. What do you think? So, although we got a diameter there, maybe a guy who's really sharp would know that a 0.152 is a 10. Just to make it easier for him when he's looking at the drawing, let's go here to General. And here's my dimension information. I don't want to fool with that because it's actually dimensioning off that particular geomark. So what I want to do though is I want to add 1032 thread. Okay, and then hit enter. And I have it now called out so that without a doubt everybody knows that that's a 1032 thread. And you know, most machinists are smart guys. So, for example, they know that if I'm not calling out all the others threads here, they're all 1032. And I could even go further. I could go 1032 by, you know, how deep it needs to go and everything else. But again, that's all in the CAD model. And the same applies to here. I've got these. I have an offset of 1/4 inch. From the edges here for the holes. Since I did a pattern copy, when I did this, they're all going to be 0.25 from the edges. So they're going to be completely uniform, 100%. And so I don't have to dimension every single location hole because the machine is going to know that, you know, there's not an issue with that. Okay, so am I done with this? Am I done? Am I done? Okay. Let me just talk very quickly about work planes. And I'm going to go to a 3D view. This is a 2D view from the top. And actually, somewhere here it tells me what I'm looking at, but I know what I'm looking at, so I don't need to know where that particular screen is. But I'm going to come over here again. Views are here. You see my mouse? That's the top view, left side view, front view, bottom view, back view, right side view. And then I got my isometrics. Let's just go to that one. That's the one I generally like to use. So now we have, right now we're on, well, let's see. Let's go ahead and turn the work plane on. Work plane should be turned on. Did it turn on? I'm not seeing it. I am not seeing the work plane. Why am I not seeing the work plane? Well, that's interesting. That was earlier on. I was showing the work plane, and now I'm not seeing the work plane. Let's go world. Try the work plane. I do not know why that tool is not working right now. So let's see if this tool is working. This tool is working. So, all right, let's do this. And like I said, I won't spend a whole lot of time on it. If I want to work on the plane that we would see here, because this is actually the work plane right here. Everything is on the work plane. We checked that earlier. That would be called the world. Okay? And that's where you want to do all your 2D drawings. Everything over here that looks like a blue line is actually a drawing. And but each facet here can be a work plane. And as you see them highlighted, if I wanted to put add something on this face, I have to tell the CAD program, well, where am I working? Where is the work plane? I don't want it up here. I don't want it there. I don't want it there. Just say I want it here. And so I select that. Now if and let's say I'm just going to put a little tab in there for whatever reason. I'm going to put a circle and extrude it, okay? Now I'm going to go to my local menu, or local snap, and I'm going to go center of extents, because I want it in the middle of that thing. You see my snap? Okay. Now, how big do we want that little tab? I would say probably not more than 0.188. Alright. Well, didn't take it. Tab back in again. 0.188. That looks pretty small. Okay, let's go 0.25. Alright, this is going to be a tab anyway. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and extrude it. And that was a double-sided extrusion. I don't want that, so I'm going to turn that tool off. I only want to come out maybe 0.25. By the way, when I'm entering numbers like this, you're hearing me on the keyboard. I'm tabbing. All numbers are entered by a tab. So, okay, my first tab is, if you look in the lower left-hand corner, you can see it's highlighted blue. Right now it says my height is 0.157. Let's make it 0.25. And now what you're seeing here, and that used to confuse me, that's just a shadow of what the original profile was. If I do anything with it, it's going to redraw it. All I have to do is move the mouse wheel a little bit, and that shadow will disappear. But now I have a little nub. I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but let's say I want to use this little nub, but I don't want it squared on the edges. I want to go ahead and chamfer that edge. So I'm going to go to Tools, and I'm going to go to there's chamfer, and it's a 0.12. That's going to be quite a bit. I'm going to go 0.06. All right, I'm going to chamfer it. You see the little blue button here? Okay, there's our chamfer. I'll come down here to the finish flag, finish it. Okay, now I want it on the same side as, exact same place, but on the opposite side as well. So how am I going to do that? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my work plane again. Okay, I'm only doing that because I want to draw a tool here. I want to do a mirror copy. I'll explain that in a minute. So I'm going to Properties for a second, because I can't have every single line black. So for my lines, I'm going to make them red, because this is just going to be basically a construction line for me. Okay, so I think I already did this, but let's do it again. Here's my by facet. This is a facet. This is a facet. This is a facet, okay? So by facet, I want the top, and I want to draw this line. And I want to go midpoint. So I'm going to go midpoint, which is M. I just hit M. Okay, I found its midpoint. That gives me a line to reference the copy from. Okay, I'm going to delete that as soon as I'm done with it. Okay, so to do a mirror copy, I select what I want to mirror, which is the little part here. I'm going to go to copy. Do you see down here, copy, 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 copy? This is mirror copy. I'm going to get a little different view. And if I look down here in the lower left, in the command center, it says define the first point of the mirroring line. So there's the first point, because that's halfway, right? The second point is right there. And what had just happened? Oh my goodness. We copied it exactly over to the opposite side, right? Now, this line here, I might want to keep that, but I want to put it on construction. So I'm going to move it from layer 0, which is your most typical, that's where you draw. I'm going to move it over to construction. Okay, and that way, if I don't want to look at it anymore, I can come over here to layers, and you see construction here? You see my mouse? I'm going to go ahead and turn construction off. Now I don't see it. It's still there, but I won't see it. It won't show up in the prints. But I might use that for something else. Now I'm still not done with what I want to do here. Okay, because what I want to do is I want that pin, that little pin here that we just drew, I want to add it to this little block, okay? And I don't know if that's a good idea or not, because technically that's not normal. We're just going to do it. We're just going to do it. So go back to Tools. Down here, again, you see my mouse. I'm going to come down here to Tools. I am going to do a 3D add. Right there, 3D add. And again, you come over here, you see my mouse? It says select the first of the 3D entities for add. So I'm going to go bingo. You see how it changed colors? Then it says select the next operands by click or drag. So I am going to click on this. And again, I got multiple entries here, right? I'm going to go. Always the last entry you did is at the bottom. So always go to the bottom. Pretty much you'll be safe if you do that. Now, I could have done them both at the same time by holding down the Shift key. Well, actually, let's do that. Let's do that. Okay, and by the way, you see my little cursor here? You can always back up, okay? So I just undid what I just did because I want to do it over a little different and show you a way to do them both at the same time. It says select the first of the 3D entities. So we're going to do that again. And you know, if these lines here drive you nuts, sometimes they drive me nuts, come here to snap, right click, and turn off auxiliary lines, okay? You won't have to see them. You'll still get your snaps and all that, but you won't have to look at auxiliary lines. Okay, so we're going to add these little nubs to the side of our cube. We've already selected the first of the 3D images. Okay, boom. Now this time I'm going to hold Shift. When I select the little nubs, I'm going to hold Shift. You see how I want the plus? There at the cursor, look at the cursor. I want the plus. Okay, that means it knows I'm going to do multiples. So I'm going to do part. And I'm going to do part. And because I did multiples, I got to tell it when I'm done. So I got to hit the finish. Now you notice they were once white, and they are now blue. That's because we added it to the original cube, so it took over the cube's property. So if I render this right now, we got these little nubs. I don't know what we're going to do with them, but we got these little nubs on here. And it was just an exercise to show you that you have to always identify where you want to work. You have to know what your work plane is. And since this video is already quite long at this point, we'll end here. But I am going to spend some more time on those nubs or work planes and how we add things and so forth. And I will point something else out. If I go back to wireframe here, you see my cursor, wireframes up here. And I go back to layout. If you remember yesterday, we just had a cube. There were no little nubs. Okay? They are there now. But you also notice they're not there in this drawing, and that is because I'm going to have to redo the actual 2D drafting image if I want to show those nubs. So typically you don't do any of your drafting or your dimensioning until you're done completely with your model, because if you make a change, the program will change the renders, you know, throughout, but it will not change the 2D views. You got to redo them all, so you can end up wasting a lot of time by changing your model and then having to go back and redo all your 2D stuff. Okay, All right, I think that's enough for tonight. Now, if anybody is interested in learning more about this particular type of program, let me know. I possibly might do some tutoring, some teaching on the side. Well, not on the side because I'm retired, so I might do that if somebody's actually interested in it. Let's see. We need to change this here before I cancel out. So when I change, how do I change it? I got to go back to selector information. And this is something that you got to get used to, because you're used to Microsoft Word. You just go double click on everything and you can get into it, but this doesn't work that way. You got to go back to selector information. Okay, so we're not necessarily looking at TC setup. Let's look at tools and work plans. All right, and I think that will be enough for right now. Okay, okay, thank you. We'll talk to you soon.